Tonight, we're going to be discussing a very important topic in the form of a debate. And the topic tonight is the December 30th protest that was held or supposed to have been held in Monrovia and the intervention of the international community. We have two gentlemen who debated this topic before December 30th, and so they are back. So we can see who's going to tell their friend, I told you so. Also in tonight's debate is our Business and Economic Forum editor, Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones. We have Mr. Wilmot Cooney, who at a time did not support the protest, and Dr. Batom Kula, who supported the protest. Gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you for having us. Happy to be here again.
Good. We want to welcome all our viewers across the globe. We say share the video. Welcome to our Friday night debate. We're going to be having a debate on the protest and everything in between. I want to welcome Dr. Batom Kula. Dr. Kula, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Right. How is it?
Things are good. I'm glad to be on again, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year. This is our first Friday night debate of 2020. We also welcome in studio Mr. Wilmot Cooney, former president of EULA. Mr. Cooney, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me. And I also want to say, extend greetings to my colleague, Dr. Kula, and to wish all of us a happy new year for us and for the people of Liberia.
Great. And joining us by phone is our Business and Economic Forum editor, Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones. Alex, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. And I want to also wish a peaceful new year to all Liberians. And again, it was a pleasure discussing with my brothers, big brothers here today, and I look forward to another spirited debate.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. Our goal, educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. The last time you gentlemen were here, we were discussing fixing the Liberian governance structure, and there were some ideas that were proposed. So we want briefly, before we get into our today's topic, to just summarize what we discussed and see how we can conclude on that before we begin. There were 4 different perspectives being preferred as a way of fixing the governance structure in Liberia. Dr. Kula and Mr. Cooney proposed decentralization as the way. Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones proposed abolishing the offices of the presidency and the vice presidency, or abolishing the offices of the president and the vice president. And Mr. Austin Fowler, who's not here tonight, proposed fixing the existing structure or modifying or improving on the existing structure by doing one of 2 things. One, the legislative branch should be on a part-time basis, and there should be appointment of judges. So guys, welcome back. I want you, for the next 5 minutes, I want us to first summarize your position. And we saw that there were some overlaps. So starting with you, Mr. Cooney, summarize your position. And if you were to take so, what do all of us think can be the structure that we have for Liberia using our last discussion and the views from everybody else? Where you stand now?
Well, Mr. Dennis, thank you again. Basically, I still stand on my original position. I think the situation of governance, the situation of power, the situation of corruption, every other variable of governance that we think about, I think can best be altered if we change the governance structure of the state. The government we have today and the government that we've always had has been a highly centralized predatory system that is based in Monrovia, used to exploit the rest of the country, prey on the resources of the country for the benefit of only Monrovia. And so we are saying that one of the ways we can move forward for Liberia to solve some of its problems is to decentralize power. We have to clearly define the relationship between the regions and the national government. We cannot, one Liberian politician, just to borrow from him, said we cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. We've been building Monrovia for the past 172 years. We've practiced the highly centralized power structure in Monrovia for 172 years. And for all of that time, see the level of development we've had. The resources of Nimba County, the resources of Cape Mount, the resources of Grand Jiria, Grand Bassa, all of the counties are removed from the county and taken to politicians that live in Monrovia. The sad thing is that even these people that represent us don't even live in the regions of the country that they claim to come from. So basically, our country is a Monrovia-based country. Everything that is done in our country is for Monrovia politicians. And we think that if the regions, if the counties can be empowered, if political power can be shared between the central government and the counties, if economic power, financial resources, the taxes, all of these things can be shared between the central government and the counties can be given the opportunity to elect their own governance structure, we think Liberia will make progress by adapting that model. We cannot continue to build Monrovia. We cannot continue to have a system of Monrovia politicians preying on the rest of the country, exercising power, appropriating the resources of the country all to themselves, while the rest of the country sit and watch. So basically, this is what I'm saying. And finally, to end my point, we can all, in my opinion, this can be done. This can be done by reorientating the minds of the people. And this is where civic education comes from. This is where conscientization comes from. This is where debates come from, as we are doing today. This is where awareness comes from. This is where education comes from. All of these things we have to come to play so that people can be aware of these conditions and be able to make a democratic push to achieve them, because we're not going to achieve them through war. We're going to achieve them through the democratic process.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Mr. Kunin. And your position is still unchanged. You're not even borrowing anything from anybody. But let me go to you, Dr. Kula.
Yeah, my position still is to decentralize the government, like I said before, in two areas. One is on decentralizing the power and getting the power away from the president. The president has too much appointing power. Let's take some of that appointing power from the president, perhaps limit it to his cabinet and a few other things, but in essence, bring it up to the point where he's not appointing 4,000 people in government, controlling government. Make our legislative branch purely dependent and a separate branch from the executive. As it stands now, the executive seems to control the legislative branch as well. What I would borrow from would be the election of judges, because again, the president appoints Supreme Court judges and judges around the country. And quite recently, we saw where the president removed a judge because that judge wrote a report that was, not in their favor. And then he did it again when a judge ruled in favor of Roots FM. He removed that judge. So let's take away that, allow judges to be elected, allow superintendents to be elected, and then let's look at the finances of the country. Also allow states, or not states, but counties, to have a certain budget or a certain percent of a budget, even if it means a certain tax base. Let's say 10% tax is a county tax and city tax and so on and so forth. Sort of like it's done here in America. America has set that model for us. So we don't have to create anything new. We can just borrow from the way the states are set up here in America, because our system is based on the American system. So in a nutshell, let's decentralize, strengthen the Good Governance Commission, strengthen a lot of our integrity institutions so that the executive does not have the kind of power, and the imperial presidency is a thing of the past. That's my position.
Thank you, Dr. Kula. Mr. Alice Chuju Jones, you had a view that some people thought was kind of
Innovative. Innovative. That's
yeah,
the word.
okay. Okay, so let's see where you stand now.
Okay, well, I think my position is the position that's going to prevail in the long run. I think it's innovative, and as any technology, when you first or innovative process, people are first circumspect of it, and then they rationalize it, and as time goes by, they adapt it. That was with the computer, the phone, internet banking, and in fact, even the republic. Before France came up with the republic, you had all monarchies in Europe and around the world, Belgium and Norway and Japan and everywhere else. After the French Revolution, they abolished the monarchy of France, and they came up with the first republic in the world, and other countries started to adopt it, where people are elected, there's no birthright, and so on and so forth. So this is a new idea. It's not new in the sense that there's nowhere in the world that has a similar structure. I think I mentioned last time, Switzerland has a similar structure. They do not have a single presidency. The Netherlands also have similar structure. Germany has similar structure. Even the Great Britain has similar structure. When I say abolish the presidency or the president and vice president, I do not mean you wouldn't have any kind of leadership or figurehead to worship or to, if that's the culture, that's fine. In Japan has a king, an emperor, but the emperor is not the head of the government. He's the head of the state. He's head of state. In the United Kingdom, you have the queen. The queen is the head of state, but she's not the head of government. So what I'm trying to propose here is that we will have a kind of system where you wouldn't have someone who, whether you want to call them head of state, who would be appointing everyone and would be running the government as we find today in most African countries. We'll have a system where I think it will encompass decentralization, or the county superintendent will form that council that will serve as the head of state or head of government. And then you will have a system, you still have a legislature, you still have people running aspects of the government like foreign affairs and defense and what have you. The difference is, my rationale is this. Number one, we can't afford the presidency in Liberia. We're borrowing money to pay somebody or give them a lifestyle, which is not ours. We have a huge deficit problem. If we took away the presidency and the vice president from Liberia, we can save tens of millions of dollars. And my rationale also is that the presidency and vice presidency in Liberia does not add any value. If we didn't have it, I think the country will even be better. So it's not like we've had presidencies in Liberia where they've come up to do more for the people. They build the place up, and the leadership have brought the people together. In fact, it's been the opposite. Our presidency has caused war, division, and so why keep it? And I think I will leave more argument as we go along, but I think that at the end of the day, that's what we're wrapped up in Liberia.
Thank you. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you guys back. So
Can
I
push back a little bit, or we just hear one another position and go?
Yeah, well, because this is now a topic, we just review. This is just a review. So what I want you guys to do is go back, call each other, and come up with a plan that tomorrow we can see being implemented in Liberia. Because you're still holding on to your position, you're not even borrowing anything.
Well, like I said, the decentralization. Go ahead.
Is that a deal?
Well, but listen, you see, I wanted to. My brother Alex, we like the young people because they got some sharp minds and, they're fast in thinking. If the justification Alex is giving for abolishing the presidency and the vice presidency is to save money, and all of the examples that he has laid out, if you look at those examples carefully, you will recognize that even those societies and those countries that don't have the executive presidency and the vice presidency, they also have a huge expenditure on the ceremonial head of state. For example, if you go to the If you go to the United Kingdom, there is a huge expenditure on the Queen. You go in Japan, there is a huge expenditure on the emperor in Israel. So I don't think just by looking at the expenditure side, it should be the argument of which.
It's not the only side, but let's leave it right there, Mr. Kuni. I want you guys to go back during the week and come up with a plan and tell me that this is something that we're going to go with, that we can submit or we can publish on our website and say, this is how on Focus on Liberia we think the country should be governed.
Let Ellis create a working group email for us. You know, the young people are very smart with the IT stuff.
All right. Thank you, guys. So
I would do that.
We're going to go into today's topic. I want to once again say welcome to Focus on Liberia. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, please share the video, invite a friend, and let's take part in issues affecting our country. Before we go into that, we'll take a few minutes, 3 minutes to listen to our news roundup from our West African correspondent.
Good evening, viewers. This is Edward Amara, Focus on Liberia, West African correspondent. Here are the latest African news update. Ethiopia's new anti-terror law criticized. Opposition and human rights groups have criticized a new Ethiopian anti-terrorism law, saying it doesn't go far enough in terms of reform. The law passed on Thursday replaces old legislation we describe as terrorism, any gathering that disrupted public services. It now says workers have the right to strike even if they do not disrupt public services. The new law also removes text to authorize the arrest of dozens of journalists and opposition politicians. Amnesty International said the legislation still had potential for abuse, but has some pro-human rights element, they maintain. Another development in West Africa, losers challenges Guinea-Bissau election result. The opposition candidate in Guinea-Bissau presidential runoff has filed a Supreme Court challenge against the election result. Domingo Simons Pereira said there had been substantial fraud, with votes cast surpassing the number of voters in some areas. However, African Union observers said the poll was free and fair. The former Prime Minister and Army General Umaru Sissoco Embargo, who won 54% of the total vote cast, has insisted that he was the rightful winner. Mr. Embargo has presented himself as a unifier of a country politically divided, which has had 7 prime ministers in the past 5 years. Further in West Africa, the president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, has vowed to step down when his term expires in 2023. He, however, warned all political parties in the country, especially the ruling APC party and the opposition PDP, to respect the democratic atmosphere Nigeria has been enjoying under his regime is maintained. He also called upon Boko Haram, a kind of terrorism group that have been terrorizing the country over the past decade. He said that they should come to book an eye on how things. Any attack on Nigerians will only tarnish the country's reputation, he maintained. He therefore said that if the set have anything against the government, it's high time they come on board and discuss it rather to result in attacking innocent Nigerians, the president of the country maintained. Furthermore, in East Africa, hundreds of people have attended the local government organized protests against militant group Al-Shabaab in Somalia, capital city Mogadishu. The demonstration comes after the militant killed more than 80 people in a bomb attack on Saturday. On Monday, the group apologized for the attack and offered condolences to her victims. The UN and African Union backed government is battling Al-Shabaab for control of the country. Saturday's blast took place at a checkpoint at a busy intersection in the capital city Mogadishu and was one of the deadliest militant attacks ever carried into the country. The protests were organized by Mogadishu's local administration and was held at a secure general residence in the police academy. Reporting for Focus on Liberia, this is Edward Amara in Kenema City, Eastern Province, Sierra Leone.
That was our West African correspondent, Admiral Edward, reporting from Sierra Leone. Guys, let's go into it. December 30th was announced months before the actual December 30th that a protest was going to be held. It started as a Weah step down campaign, or calling for President Weah to step down. According to the organizers, they were going to be in the streets until the president stepped down. There were resistance, people that organized, that participated in the June 7 protest. Some of them back out of that one because it was calling for the president to step down. In a formal letter written to the government, the COP, that is the Council of Patriots behind the protest, did not include anything on the stepping down of President Weah, but called this a peaceful assembly. December 30 came and passed. The protest was not held. We had our international partners, as we call them, intervening and asking the COP to postpone the protest to June 5th. Mr. Cooney, we were here before. On the day of the protest, what ran through your mind and what you think of it now?
Dennis, before I answer that question, I just want to make a few clarifications.
Okay.
I want to state for the record that as someone who has worked in the field of democracy and social justice, I do very much respect the constitutional rights of all citizens to assemble, to protest, to express their grievances to the government. My opposition to the protest at that time is based on two factors. First of all, I do not see any credibility in the organizers of this protest. In my opinion, they don't have the credibility, they don't have the trust, they don't have the honesty to have been the one to call for such a protest. The second opposition was based on the point that you alluded to earlier, that the purpose of the protest was to render the state ungovernable until the president steps down. That, in my opinion, is not something that is guaranteed by the Constitution. Mass protest to remove an elected power from president is not a constitutional act. Those were my principal opposition to the protest. The organizers don't have credibility, even though I believe in protest. The fact that I'm a Christian doesn't mean I can go to any church, despite, that church going in a way that in my Christian belief is not consistent with the Christian principles. So I just wanted to make that clear. Now that the protest has been rescheduled and some of the concerns we expressed here came out, we saw the very organizers now backtracking that no, the protest is not to call for the elected president to step down, but is to present their grievances to the government, to assemble and present their grievances to the government. I still feel, as I felt then, that again, this group do not have credibility on this issue. I pretty much see them as a bunch of hustlers that are trying to exploit the legitimate concerns of the Liberian people, to profit off the concerns of the Liberian people, to benefit in a real mischievous way.
Mr. Cooney.
From the challenges of our people. And I can explain that as we go further in this.
Because before I even bring in Dr. Kula, is like, what does credibility have to do with it? If you believe that what they are looking for, what they are asking for, is the concern is genuine, what credibility got to do with it?
Well, the leaders of the movement, the character, the moral character, the honesty of the people who are calling for this is very important. And like I said, because I'm a Christian, it doesn't mean that I should go to any church where, in my view, that crosses my Christian principle. So this is why I'm saying, so not because I believe in protests who are endorse every and all protests. That would be...
No, what I was asking, if they are asking if the issues that they are concerned about are legitimate, does it matter who called for those issues?
Yes, it matters, because like I said, they are calling for the issue is not for the interest of the people, but to profit on the suffering of the people. And you cannot profit. You cannot hustle on the conditions of our people. You cannot, it is immoral, it is very wrong to profit on the suffering of our people.
Thank you. I don't know which one is better, but let me bring in Dr. Kula and I'll go back to you. Dr. Kula, where did you, I know where you stand before, where you stand now, and what's up with December 30?
I still stand where I stood before. They had the right to protest, and they also had the right to call for the president to step down. In a democracy, there's nothing wrong with someone calling for the president to resign because he's not leading. In my view, what they should have done was to speak with one voice. They didn't. They had one group of people, Costa being one of those who has the largest platform in the country, saying that he wanted the president to step down. But others within COP did not agree, and they had this constant battle. And because they didn't have one voice, there wasn't really a clear direction. And I think that affected everything around the protest to the point where the international community had to come in because they were concerned that the message that was being sent was that these guys were going to go and protest and ask for the president to step down. And then people like Koji and others who have now just gotten power and wealth and all the trappings of power were going to do whatever it took to prevent them from leading that protest, calling for the president to step down, and they were going to protect their turf, so to speak, and that would have brought violence, and that's what the international community was concerned about. But I differ with Mr. Coney in the sense that Liberians have this maxim that they always quote. It's actually from a legal maxim that says, he with clean hands must come with equity, or something to that effect. They always quote
he who come to equity must come with clean hands.
Yeah, he who comes with equity must come with clean hands. They always quote that maxim, but the way they interpret it is wrong. That maxim has nothing saying in the legal definition that you must be pure and a saint in order to bring forth issues that affect your nation and your people. Okay? Costa, no matter how you look at him, no matter all the stuff they talk about, he's a blackmailer, he's a this, and the president's pushing the same line. These guys are racketeers, and all of this. The fact of the matter is, Costa is the only one in our country that stood up to the president when nobody else would stand up. The opposition leaders wouldn't stand up. Nobody was saying anything. It seemed like the president was co-opting the entire nation, including EULA, including ALJA, the journalists in America. Everybody was co-opted. So these guys stood up and said, no, we cannot allow this man to continue to break down our institutions, violate everything, run everything, pretty much control the legislative branch, the judicial branch, every branch of government. We have to stand up to him and ask him to be accountable. And that's what they did. And we have to look at what the petition was that these boys presented, because it has clear and legitimate issues that they raised. Now, if you say they raised these issues and somehow the government is going to come back to them and say, oh, y'all don't protest, I will give y'all money, and if money changes hands, well, who's doing the blackmail? Who's doing the offering of the bribe? It's the government. They didn't go ask you for it. So I'm not gonna charge these guys and say they don't have the character, the moral character to speak on national issues. All I have to say to them is, whenever you speak with one voice and be clear in what you're doing, so you don't confuse your audience, you don't confuse the international community, and you don't have certain situations that'll bring about violence from those that are in power now. I think that's where they went wrong. The other place they went wrong also is that
Dr. Kula.
Yeah.
We'll come to the wrong part, but if you admit that these people they lack direction because they were not talking with one voice, everybody was their own COP at that point. If you admit that, and you also allude to the fact that okay, even on that point, doesn't that justify what Mr. Cooney was saying about credibility?
No, it doesn't justify anything about credibility. Let me tell you an example of what happened in the first instance. When they led the first protest, the first June 7th protest, the Fadiga brothers that are now supporting WIA and went to Liberia and doing all the photo ops, they insisted that Costa and others had to make WIA resigning as a condition of the June 7th protest, and the boys refused. When they refused, next thing we saw the Fadiga boys saying they were going to Liberia for the protest. Next thing they were in Senegal. They never went to the protest. Maybe money changed hands there. Maybe money has been changing hands over the years with others that tried to do the April 12th protest.
You're introducing something else, Dr. Kula.
No. Listen to
Can
where
I
I'm
come
going
in?
with this. Listen to
Hold
where I'm
on.
going with this. Listen to where I'm going with this. The issue here is in our society, if you look at every individual in that society as it stands, there's no real moral voice that will stand up and say, oh, this person is a saint, is clean, and therefore he's the one that we're allowed to talk. Even the CDC, when they were protesting, when they were in opposition, those guys are not moral. They've got some serious issues. So I'm not gonna have the test for these guys that they have to be clean characters and perfect people before they can speak on issues in the government or issues in the country when nobody would speak up. Nobody.
Yeah. Okay. Before I go to Alice June, Miss Dr. Kula, here is the thing. Sometimes because we see that the one in power is not doing the right thing, and so because of that, we allow just anybody without even vetting them, in spite of their flaws and their moral weaknesses, we allow them to be the one to talk because probably they are the strongest, or they have the loudest mouth, or they have the biggest gun, as in the case of Mr. Charles Taylor.
Well, the reality is this. Either way you look at it, the president that we have right now is not a poster boy for any morals. Okay,
Right.
There's a man who had babies out of wedlock while he was married. He did all kinds of things that whenever people try to put out in the public, they'll say, oh, that a man personal business. No, it's not personal business. You got to look at the entire character of a man that you're producing to be president of your nation and vet him thoroughly, right? So
Right.
they're not moral. They're not perfect characters to stand
Okay.
up. Even the people in the legislature. These are the people we're dealing with, our legislative branch. They were not vetted. These guys got all kinds of shady characters in that legislative branch. We got killers in there. We got people who were deported from this country
Right.
and did all kinds of. We got all kinds of characters. So in essence, we're dealing with what we got, the hand that we got. So
Okay.
unless those that are here even in the diaspora, the Liberians in the diaspora have their issues too, because all of the Liberian organizations got issues and they got bad characters and they got bad individuals. So nobody in Liberia is a saint. We got issues as a nation. So I'm not
Okay.
looking for any saint right now. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Thank you.
Even our pastors got issues.
Thank you. And you are
Yeah,
pastor,
man.
I can understand. Mr.
I'm a
Jones.
pastor, I'm Bishop son, but even our pastors got serious issues.
Okay.
Nobody there is any saint. Show me
Yeah,
the saint.
yeah.
The
And
president ain't no saint.
that's what I was alluding to. That if we say that, it means we, as in Labrador, we say any water can put up fire. So we use any water.
Our entire country is bankrupt morally.
All right.
It does-
Okay. Let me
there's
go to
only
Mr. Jones.
one few people that can stand up with any kind of character in our country.
Let me go
Our
to Mr.
president
Jones.
ain't no saint. All of them corrupt.
Mr. Jones,
Yes, sir.
December 30 protest, where you stood before, where you standing now?
Well, I think I'm smack in the middle. I think Liberians should protest. I think, as Dr. Kula just indicated, they should protest, for a variety of reasons. One particularly is the economy. And they should be protesting with a purpose. If the protest is for a better economy, for corruption, then I think that's where the issue should be. What can we do to change that particular the economy? Obviously, I mean, my position against the Joshua administration is that the administration is incompetent, at least economically. They have no sense of direction. Economically, they have no purpose. They don't have an economic plan. It seems to wake up every day and wherever the issue is, wherever the year the people talk about, and they go there. One day they're building roads, and the other day they're traveling to get investors, and the other day, so it's a mess. I also stand where that leadership should be credible. In order for you to be successful, you must, any organization, they must have good leadership. And I don't think Mr. Costa has that kind of leadership. Why? I think he's courageous, and I think his effort carries a lot of weight in terms of, Liberia has to start to think about change in this country. I think I agree that he lacks the he lacks the fortitude of what a leadership is. One of the best things, one of the areas in where you know a good leader from a bad one, first is the people that surrounds the leader. Okay, let me just take it to business since that's my area in economics. Okay, most CEOs are unqualified. If you looked at the number of people in our company who are better, more advanced, have more PhD, let's take Pfizer for example. I would doubt that the CEO has a PhD or the CEO has the kind of depth and the scientific knowledge. But what does that CEO do? The first thing he does is he goes out and he brings in a good chief financial officer. He brings in a good chief communication officer, a good human resource. He appoints a board to guide. So when I look at an organization like the COP, first of all, I see Costa. My point is, you can improve. But if ignorance is when you don't want to improve. So you have the Liberian people willing to support at some degree. Okay, this is where you go out and say, look, what can I do as a leader in order for me to improve and succeed? But if you're arrogant to the point where you feel that because you started something, you have to head it, you have to lead it, and you got to have your friends behind you, or your cousin or your brother, then you're a fool. Because you will fail. You will not fail because what you're doing, the cause is not right. You will fail because, again, of arrogance. And that in both Costa and George Weah, it's the same. You're the president of the country. You won election, okay? The economy is not doing well. Your team is not performing. All the Liberian people want is to eat. They want to get paid. They want to see some improvement, all right? Whether you're president elected for 20 years or 50 years, if the Liberian people cannot deliver on those basic things, they have every right to say, we don't want you. And so, again, that arrogance is that I'm the president, I want a term, and so I have to serve my term. It does not hold water. Either go out, get people who can help you, or leave the job. That's my point. Don't hold a job that you're incapable of.
So Alex, what you are asking for is, because the reasons that you have listed, those are not the exact same reason listed by the COP for a protest. Besides, you are
the question is, do they have a reason?
And nobody is doing the right thing.
Wrong.
So where do we go? Do we have protests or no protests?
Well, like I said, that is something where I believe Liberia should and will have a protest, whether now in the future or any other time. And a protest means that you're against the administration's activities or actions. As I was coming, I was reading a front page article about how the government sends security forces at an establishment to raid the place and so forth. Those kinds of actions are just unacceptable, okay? I've been very critical of the administration, okay? But the one thing I've praised the administration for is that they have not arrested any political prisoner. And they've been, they've shown restraint in that respect, which even Ellie Johnson-Sirleaf didn't do. Ellie Johnson-Sirleaf went out there after even journalists like Rodney Sear. So I tend to be as balanced and objective. I don't have any boom. I don't have any political candidate. I'm just an analyst. I look at the situation and I try to see. So there should be protests in Liberia. The protest should be because of leadership, economic leadership. And if the president, the protest should be defined and run by credible people. Costa should do a better job of going out there looking for Liberians who can help him. He does not necessarily have to be the head of whatever. Look, Benjamin Franklin, of the founding father, okay, was one that I would say the most brilliant of the founding fathers. Benjamin Franklin was not president of America. Okay, so does that mean that because you came up with something that makes you the better person to run it? Again, that's ignorance because you may not be the better person. Well, if you really sincere that you came up with this thing to change the lives of Liberians, then if you are failing in terms of failing to provide enough reason to galvanize people to follow you, when I mean people, I don't mean the same people that follow Charles Taylor and the same people that, because the quality and quantity, you understand? And when you look at the quantity of both parties, you look at Karen Costa and look at the people behind him. Okay, you got Taylor Ure, you got, Yeke Kolobat. Obviously, these are all political opponents. So they're not in a position to say that they carry on a course in Liberia because of the people. They have their own political objective. They are opposition. You can't be an opposition. It's like Martin Luther King saying, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. So you need to get people who are neutral, people who haven't worked, who are not campaigning. With the government too, on their end, you also need to have people that represent and reflect the Liberian people or the will of the Liberian people. If you got, Samuel Tuer, who basically you his lawyer master.
I know you were going there, but hold
McGill, McGill, then it shows me that, listen, you're not serious. Basically, that you brought your friends and people in the government, as a reward for their loyalty towards you. So both parties, Liberia, we've got a problem.
Thank you. Mr. Cooney, I don't want you to but Dr. Kula interjected, say I was not saying the truth.
No, Dennis, you're wrong.
It look like I'm the spectator here now.
No, hold on. I just want to bring Dr. Kula in, who said I was wrong,
briefly.
And then he can react to Alex.
Dennis, you need to go over the petition that these boys wrote. What Alex said about the economy and governance and all of that is in the petition. The only thing is they're not voicing that, and that they're not going over it constantly to remind the people of the reasons why they came forth. That's why I say you're wrong, because you said they're not in line with what Alex said, but the petition is actually in line with what Alex said. They listed a lot of grievances. They looked at the judiciary, the legislative branch, the executive, and they listed a bunch of different things with the economy, with governance, and breaking down the institutions and all of that.
Okay.
So you need to look at the petition.
That, even though they listed more things like fire this person.
And Dr. Kula, I've listened to the petition and I've read some of the grievances, and I can tell you, the grievance that they put out, one, is numerous, and it just doesn't make sense. One of the grievances that the president should not allocate money for the first lady. Okay, if you like, you guys here start here yourself.
Alex, you have your time. Let me go to Mr. Cooney. I just wanted Dr. Kula to clarify that. Mr. Cooney, I know you will soon say a buyer because that.
Yeah, it looked like you're doing the Georgia thing on me. Listen, I just wanted to push back a little bit on some of the points that my colleagues expressed here. First of all, I totally refuse to accept the point made by Dr. Kula that in Liberia there is a lack of credible people of character, people of high moral standing, people of courage that are available to speak on behalf of the people. I totally reject that. That is not true. And I also want to put that nobody is talking about angels. We're not talking about angels coming from heaven to work on behalf of Liberian people. We all know that all of us as human beings, we are flawed one way or the other. But when we are scrutinizing the current leadership for whatever failing the current leadership has, I think it is incumbent upon Liberians to also know those who are putting themselves forward for leadership, to suggest that it doesn't matter who becomes a leader or who we put forward as a leader because conditions are terrible, is similar to the same argument we heard during the Charles Taylor time. That,
I didn't say that. You're misquoting me again.
Oh my God. Dr. Clay, you will have to give me, when you're talking, I listen to you. I have the
but
right.
Don't misquote me.
I have the right to my opinion of what you say. The same way you have the right to your opinion of what I say.
Hold on.
So you allow me to express my opinion.
Go ahead, Dr. Kula. You will come after he's
you
finished.
You say here that nobody is perfect, nobody is flawless, so anything can emerge and anybody can be leader. Credibility is not important to you.
I didn't say that. You're lying again. You're lying. I didn't say that.
Hold on, Dr. Kula. You have a chance. Go ahead, Mr. Cooney.
Okay, then agree with me that credibility of people who lead the people is important. Then say it. Don't beat around the bush because somehow we don't double speak. Credibility is important. And to suggest that, because of the current situation of the Liberian people, we should not scrutinize those who become leader of the Liberian people. It's just it's something that should not be accepted. But back to the other point we're talking about here, the purpose of the protest and the reason why credibility is important. And you talk about the mixed messages that came from the organizers of the protest that drew not only my attention, but the attention of a whole lot of Liberians. No one has ever articulated here to say, let the president step down, it's a crime. But if you take an action in support of the president coming down against the law, then it's a crime. You have the right to say, okay, Dennis, I mean, I can't continue to participate in this debate if my thoughts are being interrupted like this.
Dr. Kula, you have to wait. Let the man learn his thought, and then we'll come to you.
You know, you have the right to tell me that I'm stupid. That's your freedom to tell me that I'm stupid. But to say that because you think I'm stupid, so you're going to force me to sit down on the ground, is against the law. It's just a simple analogy. So no one is saying that.
Said that.
Oh, God. Dennis, I might have to leave this show because, I mean, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why the dog is so just thin skin.
Go ahead, Mr. Coney. You have 30 seconds. You have 1 minute to finish your thought.
Well, there's a difference between freedom of speech and action. A speech may not be against the law, but an action can be against the law. And you have to go and research that. So basically, this is what I'm saying. And so the mixed messages that came from the organizer for the same credibility issue that came from the organizers, they were not just saying, oh, let's meet and present our grievances. It's like, look, let's meet, the president will come down. Other key people in the group say, we'll drag the president in the street. Even the organizers say, some of our people will bear guns. And you keep saying this is a peaceful protest. In these United States, you issue any threat against the president of the United States, you will get visit from the Secret Service. It's not free speech. But it looks like when it comes to our country, and because of the current leadership, you know, people feel that, I mean, anything goes. The president's supposed to walk by land to go to Africa Coast. You know, the president's supposed to do this, the president's supposed to do that. We have to be honest and true to ourselves. You cannot be planning a peaceful protest and talking about your supporters, the possibility of your supporters being armed, or the possibility of dragging the president in the street. And this is what the international partners and other Liberians saw. And that what led to the, I'm coming. That what led to the disruption of the December 13th. And on the issue of credibility and mixed messages, see what we're witnessing. This entire protest now has been reduced to us planning a wedding. It's like we are planning a wedding ceremony. This other day is not good. The other day is good. The other day that church day. Are we really talking about the anger of the Liberian people? Are we really talking about the frustration of the Liberian people? You think the frustration of the Liberian people get down whether Christians going to church on Sunday, or Muslims going to worship on Friday, or 7-day Adventist going to church on Saturday? And this is the costly aspect of this. And those of us that are familiar with these things, when they let Bacchus Matthews, peace be to his ashes, when the Liberian people felt that the price of rice was very much crucial to their survival, it didn't matter what day was for. The Liberian people assembled on a Saturday.
Mr. Kuni, let me push you. Let me push you on this.
And that's why I said the group don't have credibility. They just want to make money. They just want to exploit the frustration of the masses.
Yeah. So now the masses are frustrated. If that's what you are alluding to. So you are letting the government, the president, off the hook until you find that squeaky clean character to do this.
No, no, that's not what I'm saying. And again,
so what are you telling the government for the government to do?
Thank you for bringing that point. Dr. Kula says the only courageous person or the only person that is raising this issue is Costa. I disagree. Opposition parties are raising the issue. The only person who is willing to be the flamethrower is Henry Costa. That one I can agree. But opposition political parties are raising the issue. Interest groups are raising the issue. Civil society organizations are raising the issue. The very ULA you condemn, they are all raising the issue. So the fact that nobody is getting on radio to throw flame on the frustration of the Liberian people doesn't mean that there is only one person that is raising the issue. The ANC is speaking. The Liberty Party is speaking. The Unity Party is speaking. Don't discount the voices of these people because they're not insulting people or because they're not threatening to drag people in the street, only to increase the margin of their hustle.
Thank you,
brother. Can I come in, please?
Yeah, I'm coming to you now, and please, Mr. Dr. Kula, don't interrupt when he's talking. I want to go to you to start talking to us on that credibility issue, the mixed messages, and as you put it previously, the lack of direction when it comes to the COP.
Let me speak on the credibility. And the reason I interject is because every time Mr. Cooney comes on, he does exactly what why Michael Gilman does. He spins. He spins. He takes people's words and he mixes it and he throws it here. Here he's talking about Costa talk about arming his people. Costa never talked about arming his people in any protest. Costa talked about arming people when his radio station was burglarized. Let's stop mixing things and spinning. It's wrong.
The U.S. ambassador lied.
Let's stop doing that.
Hold on, Mr. Cooney.
The U.S. ambassador lied, right?
When I mentioned character, I didn't say character is not a problem, right? But look at the society that we have. Where is the angel in that society? And I even mentioned the fact that in this Atlanta, in this America, all of our institutions are corrupt. The leaderships in our institutions are corrupt. Every Liberian institution has a problem in these United States where character and integrity is an issue. Ethics is an issue. But what do we have? We have a sample size being the Liberian population, the upbringing, the ideology, and the way Liberians do things, that you will be hard pressed to find people with good character, is what I said. I didn't say character is not important. Character is very important. It is indeed important. And America shows us that character and integrity is important. A society that's based on character, integrity, ethics, and morals. But Liberia does not. It's not based on that. Liberia is based on a society where the big man can't lie.
Therefore,
a society where big man can't lie. A society where we send mixed messages to our kids on corruption and integrity and stealing, to where our kids grow up to where they want to be in government so they can steal. If you don't steal, they call you stupid. That's the society from which you come from. Let's be honest about it.
So what do we do?
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying character is not a problem. It's wrong to have character.
Hold on, Mr.
We ought to have leadership with character. I've been pointing to the fact that the current leader in the office was not vetted. Because what people said, don't say anything about his personal life, his so-called personal life. All the stuff that he was doing.
Dr. Kula.
All the stuff that we heard about that was rumored to be his character.
Dr.
Nobody
Kula.
was man enough to say it. Now we're dealing with it.
Dr. Kula.
I don't think, Dennis, I think, I didn't come here to be a spectator.
No. Hold on. I want to bring Alice in.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't come here to be a spectator and be pushed around. So can I speak
not a problem. I mean, not important.
Dr. Kula, I agree with you. We have a broken society. Okay? We have a broken presidency. We have a broken COP. How do we fix this problem in Liberia so that we can be able to build our country, so that we can develop? You know, we can't expect people who break the system or people who are incompetent of maintaining the system or structure to be the same people to be the vanguard of that system. Okay? And another point that you made about people not speaking up. Yes, there are many people who don't say much. Okay? And many people don't have the means to go online and have a platform. Not everybody's a DJ or a talk show host. But there are a lot of people who are speaking up. Not just now. Some people are just speaking up now. There are people who are speaking out since Charles Taylor, since Ellie Johnson Sirleaf. There are people who refuse to cower and to join any corruption in Liberia. So let's give some credit to where it's due. And so my point is to look for solutions. The fact is, George Weah cannot run Liberia. If Ellie Johnson Sirleaf could not revive Liberian economy and improve the lives in terms of the jobs and the capital, I doubt that this current government, with their performance, again, they have a chance. They've been given a chance to do the right thing. They didn't give them a chance to hire anybody in the world. That's why the president has that power. You give the president that power, not for just for a ceremonious reason. The reason why the president was given the power so that he could hire anybody who he saw fit was to improve the people's lives. If he hired people and the economy is not fixed, then the problem is two things. He doesn't know how to even pick people, and obviously, the country won't do very well. Now, going back to CASA, like I said, I'm very neutral on this, and I know a lot of people have a problem with being neutral. Okay, I don't think you have to be on one side or the other to make sense. I'm a rational person. I don't have to. When there's two decisions, I don't have to pick one. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I pick issues, I pick things based on issues and based on logic. The COP or any group of Liberians have the right to protest against hunger, starvation, joblessness, anytime. And they should. We should. We should protest, whether in form of writing, international community, any kind of protest that is civil, any kind of protest that will lead us to a better living standard. So I support protest. Okay? What I'm saying is, the idea of protesting is not for your own personal gratification or to make a name. If that's your purpose in life, you fail. The purpose in life is for you to succeed. So if you're protesting, you have to look at what you do in order to succeed. Similarly, you guys want presidency. I've already told Liberian people and you guys, presidency in Liberia is bad. We should not have presidency in Liberia because you know what? We are not grown-ups. We can't handle it. Okay? When we get to the stage in Liberia where somebody can be president and knows their real duty is to help other people rather than to uplift he or herself, then maybe we can think about it. But you give a Liberian person one little position today, and the next thing they think that they should be law and God and nobody should criticize them. And my last point, Dennis, you can see that even in the political parties. You question one political leader, and I have an experience and I came up with more people because you question one of the same ANC or one of these other political leaders, and you get the same reaction you get from George Weah. Okay? Mm-hmm. They have no humility. They have no, they have most of them have no integrity. All right? Or these are people who will go to BBC, like Castor and all these people, like Cummins and all these people. They will give 100 interviews to Forbes magazine, BBC, and all these people. But they will not respect a Liberian journalist. Why? Because they're more or less serving foreign people and respect foreign people than their own people. And I can tell this in a face. All the political leaders in Liberia are useless because they have not shown leadership. Okay? So we must not just be on George Weah getting down. We have to build institutions. None of the political parties today have an institution. None of the political parties today, you can go on the website and see what the economic plan is, what the social plan is, all right? And they are the ones who claim it today, including the COP, that somehow, all right, somebody else is not doing right. I agree the person is not doing right, but you have to get your house fixed before you go out and start criticizing. That's my point.
Thank you. And I will go to Mr. Cooney on this one. Then we open our phone lines, 605-313-6004, the code 791403. Mr. Cooney, let me get your reaction to what was being said, and then we can go to the next step, which is the intervention of the international community.
Mr. Dennis, thank you. I just want us to refocus from the beginning of this debate. From the beginning, I did express my support for the right of the people to assemble, and I did articulate my opposition to this particular protest on the issue of character, on the issue of morality, on the issue of courage, on the issue of leadership. There is a pattern that is becoming familiar on this debate, because there are times when I raise issue, Dr. Kula will come and express opposition to those issues, only to come to an agree when he made all of his examples all of the examples of not finding a reputable, a honest Liberian, even at home and abroad, that was to support his argument. Why individuals who lack character should lead this effort. That's what it was for. That's what it was for. And so when you quote it on that, then you say, then you get angry about it. That is the fact. I'm saying that in as much as I support protests, in as much as I recognize that there may be legitimate grievances for which the people should speak up, this current leadership is unfit, does not have the credibility, is not honest to lead the Liberian people. And we are seeing the examples of their action. Today, the anger, the frustration, the urgency that according to them, that is leading the people to protest is subject to negotiation. We are negotiating Saturday, we are negotiating Sunday, we are negotiating Monday. Dennis, we agree, again, as state, the iconic protest in the history of Liberia. If we at that time were to see our leaders negotiating with financial benefit, even rumors of financial benefit going around, none of us will have followed that protest. This is the point I'm making. The purpose of the protest is to create an awareness. It doesn't matter where you go and where you don't go. The fact that the organizers of this protest continue to grandstand on even the very little things. If you have the support of the people, the media, whoever will follow you where you go. It doesn't matter whether that it's Anthony Thomas Stadium, whether that ATS. And I told you, the April 14th protest was not at Capitol Hill. It was very far. But the people, they recognized their plight, the people trusted their leaders, and the people turned out. Leadership, credibility is important. At least I'm too old to learn that. I'm not going to make the same mistake that we made when we rushed Tauber out of office, thinking that there was going to be a better leader to come. The same mistake that was repeated with Doe, and the same mistake we keep repeating that brought Taylor. I'm not going to make that mistake because today I'm frustrated, because today I see some flaw in the system, that it doesn't matter who emerges to be leader. It matters. It matters. If we really seek change, if we are really honest about the change that we seek, then it matters that we scrutinize those who are providing leadership. That's the point I'm making.
Thank you. And thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us,
Let's scrutinize the president too.
Focus on
The president is not calling. The president is being scrutinized. The president got a legislature. He got everybody.
He was never scrutinized. He was never scrutinized.
All right, I have muted them. We are opening our phone lines so that you can join the discussion. Again, it's a pin on Facebook. That's 605-313-6004. This leads us to our next step in the discussion, which is on December 30th, on the day of the protest, there was a communication from the Economic Community of West African States and other international partners calling the protest to be postponed to a later date. The COP agreed or acquiesced, but pushed back, calling this intrusion into Liberia internal affairs. Mr. Jones, your reaction to the international community telling Liberia or getting involved in Liberia's domestic affairs to call the protest off or postpone
Again, when you have a bunch of children, literally children, you need an adult to come in to bring some kind of reason. So what you have in Liberia, according to leadership, okay, it is more like kids. You're running around. First, we kill each other up for no reason or for all the reasons in the world. Then we get together and say, okay, now let's get by. We didn't even go back to find out what the war was about. If you ask Liberians today, what the war in Liberia for? Shouldn't we be sitting down first and thinking about that? Our leaders now, shouldn't our leaders say, okay, before we even move forward, so we don't get back here, let's find out what were the reasons we went to war and killed over 200,000 people. Okay? We'll not do that. We want a quick solution. And again, we have people, unfortunately, because our system breeds It breeds the most unqualified. It breeds the most aggressive. You go back, Charles Taylor. If you're aggressive in Liberia and you're rude and you're unqualified, you get to the top. If you're smart and intelligent, you stay behind. So that's why you'll find America and all these countries around, you continue to come to Liberia. First, they'll come to Liberia with their own interest. Okay, America or any other country is not in Liberia for Liberian interest, and they should not be. They're not your daddy. You're a sovereign nation with capable people, all right? Draw on the capabilities and intelligence of the people. That's what great countries do. That's what leadership does. It brings, it's the ability, what people think leadership is about them.
Okay.
And when an institution dies, the thing again, let's go back to the political party and the quote unquote leader. What happens? The end of that, there's no institution, the end of that political party. So we'll continue to have people, we have healthcare system in Liberia that were not run by Liberian healthcare professionals, when we have people like Dr. Kula here, and we have a lot of physicians all around the world. Why couldn't we get together as a doctor or organization, health organization, go to Liberia, what Medicine Sans Frontières was doing? Liberian doctors can do the same thing. Our financial institution, just give me 1 more minute, please. You know, I know these guys will come at it. Our financial institution, okay, our banks in Liberia are not run and managed by Liberians. All 9 of them. And the one that makes the 9th one, LBDI, is a wreck. It's a wreck, according to itself bank. And that very bank was set up by the World Bank. The shareholders in our bank are foreigners, Liberians. You're talking about economic development. You're talking about you don't have pay. Why are your banks run by other people who are making millions of dollars, and you there, what, you selling something on the sidewalk? So if we want to protest, these are the things we should be protesting for, and we want to get people who can sit down with other people and find solutions. Let's stop this grandstanding and look for solutions for our people. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. Dr. Kula, do you agree with Mr. A.B. Darius DeLong that this was an intrusion into Liberia's internal affairs? So overall, what's your reaction to the intervention of the international partners?
Like, I agree totally with what Alex said. Alex touched on a lot of points in what he said that if you were to dissect it, it speaks to why Liberia has its issues. We got a bunch of adolescents running around calling themselves middle-aged men that are in positions of power in that country. We got kids in that country running things, and that's why we keep having the problems. And we never go back and look at the root causes of our problems. And I look at it from a psychosocial perspective, from a behavioral health perspective. Our people have issues by the way our society is, by the way we raise our kids in that society, by the messages we send to people in that society. And like Alex said, the honest people, the credible people, the people with the good characters and the education and whatnot do not rise up to the top in our society. It's the loudmouth ones, the aggressive ones that rise up, because that's what our society has bred. And when I was talking earlier about the credibility thing, I wasn't saying credibility is not an issue. I'm saying that's the sample size that we've been dealt with. That's the hand we've been dealt. Okay. So if these people stand up and speak up, I'm not going to take anything away from them if what they're speaking up is legitimate. And we know that what they're speaking about is legitimate. Yeah, credibility is an issue. Yeah, when we start talking about the solutions to our problems, then we can start saying, you know what? From now on, we need to find a way that everybody that goes in the House of Representatives, we make sure they're credible people with good character, with good ethics, good morals. We look at how they live their life. Look at a guy that they just elected recently in District 15, Abu Kamara. He was taking money, double dipping from the government. Still, he got elected. Nobody cares. I mean, look at all the stuff we heard about George Weah. He still got elected. Nobody cares. Look at all the other stuff, the other guys in the House of Representatives. I mean, you can go down the list. There's so many questionable people. But going back to your question, yeah, what was the question again?
Yeah, no, about the intervention. It was about the intervention of the international community.
Yes,
What
yes.
you just said.
Intervention. Going back to your question.
No, hold on.
Intervention was because I don't think it's an intrusion. I don't believe it's an intrusion. The adults in the room, which was ECOWAS, the U.S. and all those guys who know they will have to clean up the mess. Once we make a mess again, they want to make sure things stayed intact. You know, what I don't agree with Coney is that he's saying people are going to bring the man out. Nobody said they were going to bring the man out, but I think that the message that those guys were sending, that they were going to stay there and continue to protest, and the other guys, on the other hand, were going to protect their turf. That's where the trouble was coming from.
Right, Dr.
You know?
Kula. Dr. Kula, what the international community said that they were worried about those statements that were made by Mr. Costa, and they were also worried about the ICOP.
Yes, you remember when Costa got hurt? He had left his office that morning.
No. And don't go to what you are saying, his intention or the reason behind what he said, but the international community specifically pointed to those utterances that
was
he
concerned about that. Yeah. They were concerned about that. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to clarify it because
justify.
Again,
You're trying to justify
somebody will come and twist it and say he said his people should carry guns. He didn't say anything about that. He said that his people should protect themselves if anybody try to hurt them. And he was wrong for saying that because again, it creates that situation where people will feel like they can go over there with weapons on them or with whatever to protect themselves, and that creates a problem. So yeah, he shouldn't have said that. It was wrong.
Right.
It was definitely wrong.
Let me go to you, Mr. Cooney, on the intervention from the international community. Are we still babies that we need babysitter all the time?
First of all, let me state this. Any official of government, anybody in anywhere located anywhere in the government of Liberia that decry the mediation role that ECOWAS and other international groups are playing in Liberia, that describing that as an intrusion, I can just best describe it as paranoid nationalism. That's all I can say. And so, well, people who have, when you paranoid, it got no basis, I mean, to say that the international community, including Liberia, that's something that has no basis. And again, there's sometimes when we make some statements, then people think that it is pro this government. But we try to adapt an overall analytical view of the political landscape of Liberia. Today, there are people in Liberia talking about international community intruding in Liberian affairs. My question is, where were those people when the chief of staff of the armed forces of Liberia was a foreigner? Where were those people? Where were those voices? You see, this is the duplicity I'm talking about. This is the lack of credibility I'm talking about. For you to be the leader of the people, what you say must be credible. What you say must be based on honesty. You see, these are the points I'm making. For almost 12 years.
Well, Mr. Coney, I would disagree with you on that point because
hold on, Alex.
For almost 12 years, we had a Nigerian major general that was the highest military officer in our country, and none of those politicians in Monrovia today was talking about intrusion. Yes, the international community is within their purview to intrude, to intervene. I wouldn't call it intrusion, I call it intervention. For those of us that were on the front line of the 1989 war, we knew that Liberia only emerged again as a country because of the effort of our brothers and sisters from the sub-region. Okay. Some of the people that are running around today in the name of advocacy and doing anything, maybe they were not born yet, or if they were born at that time, they must have been kids. So they may not be familiar with the sacrifice in blood and treasure that the sub-region pour into Liberia. And the purpose of the intervention is to just ensure that we do not go back to those days.
Right.
How it's for.
But you see, Mr. Coney, where I disagree with you, okay?
Alex,
Mr. Coney,
just hold on, because we want to do this thing here. We want to avoid any form of interruption. My question to Mr. Coney is, Will you down understand, because you said, when you say this, people think that you are supporting the government. Will you understand that why people think that way? Because you have yet to tell us what the government is doing wrong that is necessitating this protest.
No, but that's not the business of our discussion here today. Our
But
discussion
you can
is to talk about the protest.
but you can
It's
bring
not about the
bring
failing of
it.
government. You asked me to address an issue that you did not introduce.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is the people are protesting because of conditions that they believe the government had caused.
I've already alluded that there are legitimacy to the concerns of the people. I only disagree with the leadership that is leading the people.
So if
Yeah,
Mr.
but you
Kony
also
and Osai
disagree,
were to rise
Mr.
up,
Kony.
okay,
You
go
said
ahead.
duplicitous for Liberians to feel that the international community, America, France, whoever in Liberia, are interfering in the politics, and that I disagree with you. Okay, and let me tell you why. Okay, almost every country in the world has some problem and got some help, including America. During the American Revolution, France helped them. Okay, the Balkans. They had one of the worst civil war in the Balkans. All right, they had the same peacekeeping forces there. So when you say that today, because peacekeeping forces went to Croatia and the Balkans, so Croatia, policy and politics should be dictated by other countries. Look,
But it's not
yes,
what
we got
happened.
help. But if we go back to history, hold on now. If we go back to history, if we want to go back to the past, who brought Samuel Kanyando to power? Who gave him military weapons while the people in Liberia suffer? That was the same American U.S. There's evidence, there's declassified documentation out there of how those was helped by people like Cosmo Wierenberger. These are not classified information. So in many cases, we're not saying that sometimes you don't need mediators. You don't need outsiders to come in to try to bring problems, solve a problem. But if they're doing it, well, they need to not have an interest in one way or another. Because that's what happened in Liberia. We have all these foreign powers in Liberia where they will support either the government or the Charles Taylor, for instance. Where was Charles Taylor before 1990? When Charles Taylor went to Liberia, why did the U.S. government or any other government did not say, you know what? Yes, Joe has some problems, okay? But we can't allow this man to come here and destroy this whole country. Let's sanction Joe and Charles Taylor. That's how I would think a mediator should do. But if we start supporting one group, so that's where we talk about interference, or we have a civil society. Be it as it may. In this country, we know we don't like for foreigners to come here. We just impeached Trump, right, for interfering in Ukraine policy. So what we're seeing is, a diplomat has the right to express the policy of the nation, but I don't think any diplomat has a right to go to a sovereign nation and try to prevent people from protesting or support the government or do anything that will compromise their sovereignty.
Thank you, Alex. Hold on, Kuni. Let me go on the line. We have a caller on the line. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Yeah, this is George Toto. I'm calling from Pittsburgh, PA.
Mr. Toto, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your question or comment? 1 minute, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just a comment. I wanted to address Alex on the first topic that you guys were discussing.
Okay.
On the issue of the Liberal party that you talked about, the political party. What is the problem we're having on the issue of the CPP or the COP, the political party? Like the Alex was actually saying, up to now, the political party or the CPP, up to now, they are not even adopt a comprehensive document for them to work with that will unite them to work together as a political institution. Every time they will come out and say, we're working on the document, we have not yet come out yet. And how long are they going to work on just a single document that will unite them to work together? Then they want to come and lead a country according for all the protests and calling on the various institutions to join them to support them. And these are the same thing we're trying to talk again. If people have the way to get in power today or tomorrow, the same thing will be repeated again. And it's very difficult to have or society like this. And that's about the point that Ellis was trying to raise here. I totally agree with Ellis on that. That's the point I wanted to raise.
Thank you. Let me go. Thank you, Mr. Toto. And guys, hold on to respond to the callers. But let me go to our next caller. Caller with 612.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, your name and where you calling from?
My name is Ben, and I'm calling from Minnesota.
Ben, welcome to Focus on
Yeah,
Liberia.
I just have a comment to make. So, with regards to what is going on between the CFP and the government, first of all, I want to make it clear that the government itself is not capable of taking care of the people. The government has a lot of wrongdoing.
Ben, can you speak up a little bit more? We're not hearing you clearly.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I'm saying that I was saying that the government is so corrupt, and there are a lot of bad things that have been going on into the government. But that being said, the COP themselves are just a photocopy of the government. When you see a pressure group, when I see a pressure group, I have to recognize them. When I see the COP, I recognize another political organization. You see Costa. Costa is from the ALP. You look at Wilmer Payne. He's from the UP. You see, Mo Ali. He's from the UP. And these guys got serious positions in these zero parties. But the fact that you guys have these strong positions in these political parties, it gives the government the cover up to always refer to them as opposition. Let our pressure group be free of these things. They should be free of these party sentiments. And that's the reason why the government is always saying that, oh, these people are the people that I defeated in the past election. And when it comes to credibility and leadership, the COP themselves, they are lacking of it so much. One day they accept the fourth, one day they accept the third. I mean, how can anybody follow these kind of people who they themselves can't even make the decisions for themselves? And when it comes to the issue of the international community, when was the last time that they were not part of our politics? They have always been there. The people interfere into everything all over the world. So we as Liberians, we need to know that what is going on, we are in for a long run, because things are going to get worse before they can get better.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for your contribution.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Kula, you listen to our callers. One said the political parties are not organized.
My man Edwin, Dennis, the two people spoke, you were coming to me, you want to call us, you passing by me again, you don't want me to talk?
No, I want you to talk, I forgot. Let me come to you first.
He already talked. I haven't spoken since the two of them spoke.
Oh, you see that?
So I don't know what he's talking about.
So
okay, so let's have an agreement. Let everybody just speak for 3 minutes. Keep your own time. Everybody 3 minutes to go around. Can we agree on that?
2 minutes to go.
No, get it. We want you to be the international community. Let us three agree. We will only speak for the maximum of 3 minutes.
The international community have always intervened.
Because we can't hear ourselves. Right here, there are three of us. Right, three smart people. That camera process. So we'll start with Mr. Coney first. Then he keep his own
the
time.
moderator of Georgia bias.
Mr. Coney,
it's settled.
It's true. You go on. Let's add to our callers. Three callers talking about two major issues. 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I just want to support what the last caller said, and this is basically what has been my point. What is the COP? The COP is a conglomeration of the same very opposition parties. They have their constitutional right to do whatever the constitution gave them to do. But let's look at it this way. The opposition political parties in Liberia today, they control Congress. They control Congress. All of them combined control Congress. So if they have these grievances, if these grievances are so severe, if the president is so unfit to leave office. They have the legislative power. They have the legislative power to act. But because of their dishonesty, because of their duplicity, because of their corruption, because someone want to make money on the plight of the Liberian people, they set their parties aside and they're working in COP to create the kind of pressure that will give them undue attention, to give them a dirty money on the table, and to do all kinds of stuff. And that's what I'm saying. The place that Liberian people should be outraged is the fact that these protests are supposed to be driven by the masses. It's now a subject of negotiation. It's like we are planning a wedding. We are planning a convention. People talking about expenses associated with a protest. What was the expenses that were associated with the April 14 protest? What is the expenses that are associated with the Hong Kong protest? What is the expenses that are associated to Tiananmen Square protest? This is the criminal nature of this group that we are putting forward. And there are others who are saying that because we are frustrated. Yeah, they are very strong words, and I mean them. And that because our country is at that verge, it shouldn't matter. We should not question them. We should just accept them. What I'm saying, there is a path. There is a political path. There is a political path. There is a political path if the COP has legitimate political grievances that they can use. They control 80% of Congress. The CDC controls about 20% of the House of 20 members of the House of Representatives. To the best of my calculation, they control only 3 senators. And one of the speakers said, George Weah removed the Supreme Court justice. That's not true. The Supreme Court justice was made by senators, most of whom came from the opposition parties. We have to be honest in our own truth so that we can find ourselves credible.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. Let me go to Dr. Kula to respond to our callers.
Well, let's be honest in our own truth in that even though those legislators are more in the opposition, but somehow some deal got cut where the CDC guy has speakership, and I think the CDC guy has pro temp also, and the president pretty much gets whatever he wants. So it's a rubber stamp legislator controlled by the president. Let's accept that fact. Now, when we talk about what the caller said, I agree with 2 things. One is that the COP is made up of guys from the opposition. And what I've always expressed is that to make this thing really a truly grassroots, people-driven organization, a masses-driven organization, put some of those ladies like Boyina Weah and Mankula and those others that would call into the Costa show and talk about their plight. They should have been on the stage talking. They should have been on the stage just talking from their heart. Put a face, the face of the masses on it. But the reality is, in any organization, whether it's Liberia, whether it's here in America, you would always have the opposition. If you look at Black Lives Matter is made up of mostly Democrats. Antifa is another group made up of mostly Democratic people. But, you know, that's what we have. I'm not saying, and again, let's get this clear. Stop twisting people's words. I'm not saying that credibility doesn't matter. I'm not saying we shouldn't look for credible people. I'm not saying we shouldn't question people. I'm not saying we shouldn't analyze. I'm saying, similar to what Alex is saying about the kind of people we have in our society, that's the hand we've been dealt. Now, what are we going to do about it? We can question it. We can analyze it. We can criticize it. We can find solutions to it. But we have to be truthful with ourselves and say, this is what we have. This is what our society has produced. That's what I'm saying. Now, the other thing I said to them is they're going to push this narrative and this said to myself actually that they're going to push this narrative that it's miracle Liberians against a native president again, and they're trying to bring a native president down. Just like Mr. Coney has been pushing the narrative from the president and the CDC that these guys are racketeers. They're looking for money. I mean, come on, man.
I disagree. That's my view. It's not the president's view.
That's the president's view. He said they're racketeers. What's the guy's name? Bacchus Matthews. How many of you know that Bacchus Matthews was on CIA payroll? How many of you know that Bacchus Matthew used to work at the Liberian Embassy in Washington, D.C. and was kicked out for embezzlement? So come on, when we're talking about credible people and this and that, these people cannot leave because they're credible, I go back to the same thing. The sample size from which we come. Our society is such that
you made that point
we
already.
don't have that many credible people.
Thank you.
But Dennis, I want to make a quick interjection here.
Let Alex come in before
Yeah, yeah,
No, you
know what? You know what? Okay, Dennis.
Just
I will
quick
leave onto my
interjection.
word and I will give it to Mr. Coney and let him make his point.
Yeah, listen, I think we really need to be respectful of one another's views here. I've not attributed the view shared by anybody here to anyone other than their own view. And repeatedly, Dr. Kula has always found motive for my view. Either it is a Southeasterner view or it is a president view. I think it diminished this forum. It diminished the integrity of this forum. I mean, I take his view as his view. I think he's more than capable to look at the political landscape of Liberia and form his own opinion. And if I were a spokesman for the president of the Republic of Liberia, I would gladly announce that. So I think Dr. Kula should really desist from that behavior because it is not intellectual.
Well, it's my opinion. Just like how you twist my words, it's my opinion. You're saying the same thing that the president has been saying. You're calling these boys racketeers and you're saying their motive is money. That's what the president of CDC has been saying.
Thank you. Alex, I give you 1 minute for your reaction to the callers.
Okay. Well, like I said, we have to be honest with ourselves. And Liberians are not. Okay? I have yet to see a CDC person, all right, raise a legitimate issue against George Weah or the CDC. And I have yet to see a COP person raise a legitimate, or an ANC person. If we had that kind of silliness, that whoever you are, that you are infallible, our country will always go down. Because even Martin Luther King, even Nelson Mandela, all right, were people who were held to scrutiny, were people who they themselves admitted fault. Even Jesus Christ. But these people feel that they're above, and that's the problem today. We cannot sit down intellectually and discuss our issue because we all feel so strongly. And our support is not based on rationale. Let me give you an example, all right?
You gave your time to Coney, so...
Okay, and I'll start that. I'll come back around. It's all right. It's 3 minutes. I'll come back around.
All right. Now, we move on the day of the protest, what we saw. People started saying the opposition or COP has succeeded in paralyzing the city. So the COP has won. Others said the government has won because the government made sure there was no protest. And as rightly as the government predicted that these people are for no good, the international community saw that and called the protest off. Some say Omar Kofadi, who did not go to the market, is the biggest loser because of the protest. Where you stand on winners and losers on the protest? Let me start with you, Dr. Kula.
I don't think anybody won. Anybody won in this protest. We're all losers. The government is losing because they're just being reactive, based on whatever COP comes up with. And COP did not have the protest as they talked it up, as they made the people to believe that they were going to have this protest on December 30th, and they were going to go out and they were going to, petition and tell the president either resign or did something or spoke to their needs. So I don't think anybody won in this situation, And if that's how we're going to look at it, win and lose, I mean, what are we trying to achieve? What's the ultimate that we're trying to achieve? Shouldn't Liberia be winning? Is that the issue?
Yeah.
So I don't see it as anybody
Trump
winning
said
anything.
He's going to win. Mr. Coney, winners and losers on December 30th.
I'm going to be very short on this one because I want for Alex to have one of my meetings. Look, basically, the Liberian people are the losers, and what I see as this con game, where protests are supposed to reflect the frustration and the condition of the masses are playing well in advance. and they are advertised as if to say people are going for wedding or some convention. And then in the end, you see all these long-running negotiations, putting the people of Liberia in a state of uncertainty. So I think, it is the people that are the loser. It is the country that is losing.
Who won?
We keep talking about economic condition. For each day we have these kind of activities and a cloud hang over the country, economic activities are diminished. But let me say this much, contrary to what some people here believe, that I'm closer to the government, based on what I believe the COP to be, if I were actually of influencing the government, I would have given the COP any venue they wanted and challenge them to fill that venue continuously for 1 week. Because I believe that they don't represent the masses. They are just a bunch of hustlers. I will challenge them to fill that venue for 1 week. We will provide security. You will see the activities will be bossing, buying food, trying to entice people to go. And then, as you know, the actual struggle of the people, nobody paid their way to go. Nobody paid the people to dramatize their own condition. Nobody paid the people to express their own frustration. So if I were closer to the government, that would be my recommendation. Because if you don't cut that blood from Herod Costa, it's going to be a repetition every now and then. There will be some protest that will be planned. Give Costa 1 week, whatever venue he chooses, to see whether he can fill it for that 1 week period. That would have been my recommendation to the government.
Mr. Jones.
Well, I think the young people of Liberia lost. And I think the same politicians and the old people won. Okay? If you look in Liberia today, who are the people who get jobs? Who are the people, if you get to the demographic, you'll find out again, people like Emmanuel Shaw, that have been around since I was like 6 years old. He's going to eat. He's going to get right a nice car. Okay? And so whenever you have a situation where you have a big, a demographic of young people, right? These astute political, they are very smart. Look at the political parties today. How many young people, and I say young, I mean in your 20s and 30s? Because in Liberia, even if you're 40 years old or 50 years old, you think you stay young. Okay. Well, how many young people in Liberia own businesses? How many young people in Liberia have, a decent life where they can say, I can get married, have a family and raise? Not many. So we are the young people. You're the loser. But all the situation in Liberia, who will be behind them? Who behind the cancer? You see young people. Who behind the what you call the George Weah? George Weah's children are getting an education, just like Ellie Johnson Selly's children. And you have young people who should be starting businesses, who should be writing, who should be doing things. What they're doing, they say they're doing politics, and they get nothing for it. So I think the young people in Liberia are the biggest loser. Because guess what? When the next government comes to Liberia, when George Weah, wherever time he leaves, what he said there for 10, 20 years, it wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother Dr. Kula. He's going to go to make his big time money, or Dennis Jha, or Mr. Coney. Who's going to suffer? It's going to be the same young people in Liberia that jumping behind Costa with ordinary reason, or jumping behind George Weah. So it's time for the young Liberian people, and if they honor my voice, start to think for yourself. Get from behind these political people. Get from behind these parties. Start killing each other, assassinating each other, all right, for somebody else. The other day, can I use 1 minute off for somebody? Just 1 minute. I forgot to make it.
Take my minute. Take my minute. About 1 minute again.
Thank you. Even though I owe the old people, but thank you for the 1 minute. All right. You go today and talk about issue, right? With any political party. Guess what? The leader of that political party is not going to come after you. If somebody who looks like you going to kind of insult you, going to tell you you're stupid, all right? Why? And that political leader, he's going to be drinking scotch somewhere, smoking his cigar, playing golf. We saw it with Chancellor. We saw it with Ellie Johnson Sirleaf. We saw it with CNN now today. All the so again, young people smarten up. But the next time anybody come to you and say, follow my course, say, you know what? Let me lead you farther this time around. Because in the whole Liberian history, from one time, in all people, we need innovation, and we need to come from the youth. I talk about 18, 19, 20, 25 years old. Just get together, start calling each other, and talking to build your society.
Thank you. Let me read a few comments from Facebook, and then I'll go to our caller. Lofa Julius say, wow, this is unbelievable. I see Liberians willing to work with each other and even sharing minutes. Wow, I'm impressed. So thank you guys. You were able to give your minute to another person, and Lofa Julius is impressed. Amara or Edward Amara, that's our West African correspondent, say the COP is made up of selfish, unscrupulous pleasure seekers with the worst of Liberia at heart. How different are they than the ineffective Weah-led government? Politicians who were defeated and rejected at the polls are using the group to walk themselves to power. This demonstration is manipulated, treasonable act. It is high time that they are told to stop. Those are strong words from our West African correspondent. Jimmy Eastman said, Mr. Cooney is making solid observation. Why the members of the legislature dominated by opposition is not pushing forth these points in sincerity to our failure to uphold and implement our democracy. Is that the reason? And Christopher Wolati Tobasi, if you claim to be in the interest of the people, then why do you want the protest during business hours or weekdays? So you prefer our people and country losing revenue on January 6th? Wow, shame on you. He used an expletive there. We're not going to repeat that on this forum. Then the last comment I want to read for now is from Ross Bono Ross. There is a time for everything. This is the time that the great change in our country. It may not be making sense to a lot of people, but gone are those days when government officials did consider Liberia as elephant's meat. New generation, new vision, and integrity building for the new Liberia. Now, gentlemen, the protests, think about this as I go to my caller. The protests are being rescheduled for January 6th. The government and the international community wanted them to do it on Sunday. They said no, they're going to do it on the 4th, not 6th. Yes, 6th, which is the Monday. And according to there was a meeting with the religious council and all that. My question is, the religious council met the Council of Patriots before, and all these things went on. Why is it that our people are listening to international community instead of Liberians inside Liberia to say, let's have a protest or not? But hold that thought. Let me go to our caller, and caller with 267 area code, your name and where you calling from.
My name is Gonkoy Doma. I'm coming from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Mr. Doma, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your question or comment?
My comment, I want to talk about somebody saying they have social adolescents in power in Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
To get into leadership, especially in third world countries, has to deal with risk. Those of you, or those of the people that are not adolescents, those private people, are they prepared and ready to take the risk to get into leadership in Liberia?
What's the risk?
No, they are not prepared to take the risk. And then the issue about intrusion. We are the ones who are inviting foreign ambassadors to get into our business. Anytime we have a resolution to present, we go to the U.S. Embassy either in Washington, D.C., or we go to the U.S. Embassy in Monrovia, and you present it to them. When you complain to people about your health issue all the time, you are inviting them into your business. They are not including, they are responding to the invitations we give them. And some people talking about the components of cars. You know, the same risk I was talking about. Who is prepared in Liberia now to take the risk that Labour Costa is taking? Nobody. Then listen to the issues he's raising. Is the president didn't build a house overnight? He didn't break his house down and rebuild it? The finance minister did not admit that he took hundreds of thousands of dollars cash in the street as a matter of intrusion into the economy. Who has ever done that? What accounting principles he followed? That's what the boy is saying. You know that boy, nobody knew he was going to go back to Liberia with all the intimidation from the government, the threat. Everybody thought he was not going to go. He went there. Who is prepared to do that now? There is no regulation, special regulation for an activist. There is no prepared rules and laws for activists. Anybody can be an activist. As long as what Costa is saying is true in Liberia today, people are going to follow him. People are not going to listen to the private people.
Thank you,
those of you that want to take up leadership in Liberia that are prepared to take the risk. When you go there, the adolescents are not going to be there. But if you are not prepared to do that, we'll have the same people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Doma. Let me go to my last caller, 605 area code. Your name and where you calling from?
My name is Patrick, the police station at the I'm coming around.
Veteran SOA.
Yeah, police station at the I'm coming around.
Oh, okay. Oh, Patrick, you're not ready now? Okay, let's go ahead, gentlemen. You heard the callers. One of the things is, Alex, are you prepared to go home now? If you're not prepared,
I'm already home. I'm already home.
So
okay, I think I've written more.
Why are you finding with Costa if you're not ready to do it?
Okay. So because let me ask you the question now.
Hold on.
I heard the question.
Hold on, let me finish. In Liberia, they say if you don't have a he dog for hunting, you use the she dog you have. Costa is a she dog. What's up with that?
Okay. First, let me clarify. Okay. I don't think my brother is a bad person, Henry Costa. I see him as a Liberian brother, young man who, like myself, he has his own views and ways of going about things. It doesn't mean I always agree with him, but I think I've written about his life and about things that he's doing. And where I disagree with him is what I'm saying, which is an issue of him succeeding. So it's not about him not having the courage or him not doing stuff that could lead to Liberia redemption, economic redemption. But I'm saying that he needs to get people in that organization who can help guide him and who can support him. He needs to have a broader platform. He needs to be open to scrutiny. He needs to go out, not just talk to his friends and Yeke Kolaba and who are they. So those are leadership things. By the way, we all do our own advocacy differently. My advocacy is to look for solutions. Okay, my solutions are there. I will constantly try to promote them, to give them to the people who the cast out. So when they go to negotiations, they can say, all right, instead of us talking about just the president getting rid of the central bank governor of finance, let's talk about economic council. Let's look for Liberians who are capable, bring them around so the president don't have any authority over them to manage our economy. So that's how I advocate. That's how I was trained to advocate. I'm not a DJ. I'm not someone who, so the area in which I think I have my expertise is how I gave it to the Liberian people. That's how I respond. And this, by the way, we have people like Rodney Sear who went to jail as a journalist. So Casa is not the only person who fought corruption and misgovernance in Liberia. There's a lot of people who died in Liberia. And not because he's at the forefront, that means he has to be the leader. I think a good leader wants to succeed at any cost. And that's what I'm critical with him. Those are the issues that I have with him.
Thank you. Okay.
Dennis, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let's use this last segment to preview what's going to happen on Monday. And let's first hear from Mr. Costa talking about Monday.
Apparently approached by the government to see how they can make last-minute efforts to discourage the COP from going ahead with the protest. They call us, which is why we came. The government expressed to them that they would like to make some concessions, but nothing concrete so far. The COP maintains that it is willing to engage and it is inclined to calling off the protest if certain conditions are met. And what are the conditions? Things that benefit you. We're talking about the publication of the $25 million report. We want a further investigation into the infusion into the economy of the $16 billion. We know that Mr. Weeks, Mr. Sirleaf have been prosecuted for the $1.9 billion unauthorized printing, right? But not for the $16 billion how it was infused. We want an investigation of that. We want the publication of the $25 million report, which we know has been completed, but the government has refused to publish it because we know it's damaging. And we want prosecution. Now, we also want the president to publish its assets. The inexplicable overnight acquisition of wealth, asset, luxury condominiums going up, we want to know. We are curious. And also, we want action taken on with regards to Punch FM. The license was suspended under a so-called draconian review process. We want that process ended immediately with the license issued. We want Roots FM immediately returned to the airwaves and a whole bunch of things. So we are reasonable people. But thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yeah. Okay, guys. We are looking at some Monday, new day set for the protest, and you heard Mr. Henry Costa listing some of the demands that when the government can do those things, then they won't have protests on Monday, and that's why they were in the meeting. Mr. Dr. Kula, let me start with you on Monday as we preview Monday and looking at those demands. What do you foresee?
I foresee that there will be a protest on Monday unless there's some sort of backroom deals that are going on. I foresee that there will be some sort of protest. I foresee the government coming out heavy-headed, putting soldiers and police officers on the road to kind of scare the people and all of that. But there'll be something will happen on Monday unless there's some backhanded deals that go on.
And how do you see the request or the demands of the COP, the 25 billion, the 16 billion, Punch FM, Roots FM, public prosecuting people on those 16 and 25 billion, the president publishing his assets? Those are those demands new or are they realistic? Are they
those demands, I believe, were always the demand. I took again, Dennis, you need to go back and read the demands. It goes step by step over good governance, over the judiciary, the legislative branch. It's a whole slew of things that they're talking about based on the fact that the president is breaking down our institutions. So, yeah, the demands are legitimate. Now, bringing in Punch FM, you know, it's more than just Punch FM. There was a report out recently where I didn't read it, but I saw the headlines where some institution was calling for the government not to do this thing where they were looking at all FM frequencies. They were going to cancel FM frequency. That was something that was just arbitrarily done because they didn't want to give Punch FM their frequency. You can't just make up arbitrary laws to go after people that you saw as critical of you during the campaign. You can't do that. And that's part of our problem. That's why these guys are really getting some traction based on the fact that they're actually looking at some legitimate things that the government is doing wrong.
Thank you. Mr. Cooney, we're looking at Monday and the demands set forth by the COP.
Again, you can see the desperation by Mr. Costa. As I indicated, this whole idea about a protest is not so much an expression of the anger and frustration of the people. Exactly what Mr. Costa said confirms the hustle mentality that I talked about earlier that is associated with this protest. You listen to all the demands. We all here are familiar with the investigation that was done into the $16 billion the $16 billion investigation was done. You had the international group that did the investigation. You have the Liberian group that did the investigation. We are all familiar with those investigations. And again, this is what I'm saying. There is a path to some of these things that are being listed as protests. What has gone wrong with the legislative oversight responsibility? Somebody will say, oh, the legislature is bought. The legislature is compromised. But these are things that will easily be achieved through legislative responsibility. All of the reports you talk about the Root FM situation. Again, my information is that this was an action taken by the government that is before a judicial review. Can we not challenge our courts to perform better? But I think what we're being led to believe here is that all of our systems are wrong. So maybe the solution we need is to disrupt all of the systems. And I disagree. Our system faces challenges, but I think we need to act in a consistent manner to improve those systems, not to disrupt the system. If legislators are not doing what they're supposed to do to exercise oversight and direct accountability of the executive, we need to organize for elections and put in legislators that will do the work. The failure of our legislators should not be the basis for the constant disruption of the lives of our people. I told you, this protest is a wedding meeting. We are negotiating dates. We are negotiating time. I want to believe that the reason why the organizers of this protest insist on Monday as the day of the protest is simply because they lack the ability to gain the confidence of the people, for the people to join them, to dramatize the conditions that they talk about. So maybe they are relying on a passerby, they are relying on people that are walking in the street to be part of them. But if this was a genuine concern that the Liberian people felt, as a meeting that they did is irrelevant, the Liberian people will have assembled at any time and they will have presented their grievances. So the hustle mentality is ongoing, is going on, and that's what we're going to have. So, that's what we're going to have on Monday.
Thank you. Let me read three more comments, then Ellis, I come to you. Dave just said, over 25 presidents, none of them have succeeded in building Liberia. We need to change the system. Miata Dakina, we can continue saying we have a broken system. How can it be fixed then if we keep doing the same thing and blaming other people? Stephen Slash say, hey, Brother Kuni, how are you doing? Sia Kamano say, if that Alex is speaking, sir, we hope everyone can learn from your honesty as per the issues surrounding Liberia and its greed issue. Okay. Thomas Jazz say, I'm watching from Minnesota. Thank you, Thompson, for watching. Frederick Zebe say, Liberians do not know how to vote, or maybe they don't know the power of their voting cards. So, Alex, Monday, January 6th is the new date of the protest with a new set of demands that if those things happen, then of course the protest will be called off. Your reaction? Okay, one more comment here from Isaac C. Lakbo Zawlo. Mr. Kuni, the government of Liberia has never negotiated, will not negotiate, and never ever thought about negotiating. The government of Liberia does not negotiate with terrorists. Come on, Isaac, no terrorists over there. The issues, according to Mr. Kuni, they are legitimate issues that that the COP is calling for, except that in his words, they are hustling. Okay, Alex, do we have Alex now? Okay, we still don't have Alex. So let's look at one.
Can I just make one quick interjection?
Okay, is it you borrowing Alex? You give me a minute back?
I will give it to him in subsequent time. And
okay.
Just a point that I made is, like, if you listen to the other demands of declaring assets, every Liberian would love to know the assets of their public officials. But again, this is where the duplicity lies. The COP is calling for a declaration of asset only for the president. Mind you, the COP control the largest members of the legislature.
Yeah.
Are the legislators not declaring their assets too? You know,
okay.
this is the duplicity we're talking about.
Okay. So you're calling them hypocrites?
Very hypocritical. They are hustling.
Gongwe Dopa, Uncle D says, CDC is restricting protests now in Liberia. How many times were they restricted during the Salif administration when they had scores of protests? When the government ever gave them special day to protest? What a hypocrisy. Let me go to you, Alex, to react to January 6th and the new demands, and the demands that when they happen, protests will be called off.
Yeah, just because I got cut off, those are, elementary demands, okay? And it's unfortunate that Joshua, the people he has around him, you should agree. hire your what you call the Minister of Justice to do an investigation on the $12 billion. All right. Put put the radio station back on, and how does that hurt you or anything? So those are not demands that are going to change Liberia. You're not calling for a total reform of our structure. You're not calling for an independent review of everything that goes on in Liberia, including printing. You're calling for the president to open an investigation. So that tells me this very same president that you're accusing of corruption is going to open an investigation, right? That would be against him. This very same president that you're accusing, so it doesn't make any sense. It just tells you the level of, the level of experience and the level of, it's all exuberance. Okay. If you really need to change Liberia again, Liberian people get together and sit down on how we can move forward. This, just getting up one day, falling behind somebody, you have to think. And Liberian people don't like to think. You've seen how they just want to copy American system. They didn't realize that American system has a federal government and a state government, and they have a governor over each state. But we just went copying half of it, and we forgot about the other half. So again, Mr. Costa needs to do better as a young leader, all right? He needs to not be moved by, just this personality. Every day you want to come on air and you react to every little thing. True leaders don't do that. Look at Martin Luther King. And when you talk about leadership, just an example. Look at Thomas Sankara. Look at Nelson Mandela. Did you hear Nelson Mandela speaking on every issue of the ANC? All right. So again, it's in with George Weah. Surround yourself with intelligent people who are not there to just say yes. So because at the end of the day, listen, Hussein Mubarak, all right, Robert Mugabe, Saddam Hussein, I give you some names, okay. All right, Hitler, Stalin, all these people thought they thought that they could just keep a few group of people around them, tell them how wonderful they are. Yeah, crush your opposition. Oh yeah, doing any of those things will not solve your problem. The only thing that's going to solve Josh Weah's problem, two things. One is if he looks at Liberia and say, look, maybe I'm not up to this task. Okay, I'm a good football player. I'm probably a likable person in other area, but maybe this is not my area. And it takes a real man to have that kind of critical thinking. Or whatever he's doing right now, look at it and say, it's not working. So I have to go back and do something completely different. But if you're doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result and nothing going to happen, Jones says. Even whether they have protests or not, people are still going to go to bear hunger. Liberians still going to make less than $2 a day for the most part. And our country is still going to be run by the international community because we have not sat down and thought about our economic, social, and political structure and how to change it.
Thank you, Alex. Let's conclude tonight on solutions. I know, Dr. Kula, you are not saying when the protest is held on January 6th, that's going to fix our issue. I don't think that's what you are saying. And Mr. Kuni, you are not saying when we have no protest, our issues going to be fixed. How do we fix all these things that the COP and others are complaining about? How do we arrive on an amicable solution to the problems that we face? And I want for us to close with that tonight. Let me start with you, Alex.
Well, I think I think ULA should step in. Okay, I was just at the ULA program, FOL, and people have criticized ULA a lot. People have criticized ULA, but I see some potential in the new, structure of ULA. And I'm one of those who was a big critic of ULA. But I think they have evolved and they are maturing, and I think they should play a more active role. Maybe perhaps call for a real national or national conference of Liberians. Invite Costa, right? Invite George Weah to the U.S., all right? Right? Let us invite key people in the U.S. and in back home, Darius DeLong, whoever they talk. Let us sit down, okay, in different working groups, all right, and take one weekend and come up with some kind of solution, some kind of arrangement. But that would benefit everybody. It would benefit George Weah. It would benefit Henry Costa, perhaps in our arrangement. If these people, get together and do such a thing and it don't work, then yeah. But I think they should give some organization that is of Liberia nature because we have to solve our own problem. We can't keep running to ECOWAS. When ECOWAS delegation comes, we act like Jesus Christ just returned. We have to believe in ourselves and we have to believe in our institutions. And that's how we build them. That's my recommendation.
Thank you. And I don't want to leave especially my, I don't want to leave some callers hanging here. So callers, I'm coming to you to give you just 1 minute each. Let me start with Patrick Soa. You called earlier and you've been waiting. Patrick.
Yeah, thank you for the time, Dennis. I mean, the show is good, but I have a little disappointment, and my disappointment is with Dr. Kula. The team you got in the studio or on the show is one of the best teams. All of you guys are doctor or master or BSc. So we who the viewers, we learn a lot from you people. Dr. Kula, you keep interrupting your colleagues. And you're not keeping the issues where they are. The issue is the protest December 30th. It's not about morality. The leaders are not morally upright. The issue is the December 30th protest. And this is my own side of the story. It is crystal clear that the right to protest as is defined and contained in the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia is a fundamental right. No one's going to argue that. But this is where people keep making the mistake. This right to protest is not an absolute right. If your right to protest threatens national security, the government of the Republic of Liberia got the right to come in to stop your protest. And that action of the government is never going to be considered unconstitutional. That's not me saying that, Dr. Kula. That was a ruling of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Liberia in 1986. In 1986, there was a protest. The guys called themselves the Grand Coalition.
Under military government.
Government saw that the protest was not in her wisdom in the interest of national security. The then Justice Minister Jenkins Scott went to the Supreme Court and filed a writ of mandamus. They went through the Supreme Court of the Republic of Liberia with two rulings. One, the Supreme Court said that the right to protest is a fundamental right, as is contained and defined in our Constitution. But whenever the right seems to threaten national security, the government got the right to come in to stop your protest, and that action on the part of the government will not be considered unconstitutional.
Please conclude.
What we're saying is this.
We are concluding. Please conclude.
To conclude, on October 16th, Henry Costa on one of his shows said, and I quote, "If President Weah does not listen to them to step down, they will drag him naked and scrape him like Prince Johnson did to Doe." In my mind, that is not a peaceful process in my mind.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's our argument. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Let me bring in, because we have, and next caller, if you come in, please, we want 1 minute or less. And that next caller will be Jimmy Eastman.
Hey, John.
Yes, sir. Your
Hello.
question or comment. Hello, sir.
Yes. Well, thanks for allowing me to participate a minute. It's been a brilliant discussion. Again, for me, I'm solution oriented because as an engineer, you have to find a solution before you can even start. Yeah. So it's been staring us right in the face. We have to have a functioning democracy. The legislature is pivotal for our successful democracy. If we need people who, when they get in there, they will be sincere and they will be obligated to follow the interests of their constituents, not themselves. We need to reduce the term so to force them to be obligated to their constituents. reduce the term, and train them. When so a lot of these people get elected for popularity. They don't know anything much about the functioning of a legislature. We need to go through a course to find how they are to be to conduct their oversight. All these things that's going on, the legislature could call in the finance minister. You could call in the commerce minister. Every one of these things, they have the power to rectify these things, but they're not doing it because either they don't know what to do or they don't care. Okay. I'm going to go with the fact that they need to know what to do. But until we get our legislature functional, okay, nothing's going to change. Nothing is going to change. A democracy depends on fully functioning legislature and executive and the judiciary. Without any one of those things not in proper working order, will not work. If I were protesting, I'd be protesting at the legislature's door.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And that's my input.
Thank you. Let me get my last caller. That's 804 area code. You have 1 minute. Your name and where you calling from. Caller, your name, where you calling from? 804 area code.
Yes, this is me. Can y'all hearing with me?
Excuse me?
This is me. Can y'all hear me with me? I want to speak in.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
This guy's a comedian, man. Don't let him turn this thing into.
Okay. So the thing why I want to speak, I hope y'all can hear it clearly why I can speak in.
Come on, that country is that deep.
Yeah, like these guys want to speak in on today live.
Okay, go ahead, Deacons.
Yeah, so I don't think that people know what thing they can want. I don't think that people know if they see or they not can see. But me, I can tell you, they have told the people doing the June 7th, I said nothing will not come from after the protest. They protest, nothing will come from inside, nothing will come from outside. The people say they want to protest because we are not going to listen with them. We are not doing the right thing inside the country, so they want to protest. That's why they said into the June 7th. When they said it into the June 7th, so we have to say, okay, you come to the table so we get discussion. They said no, they're not coming to the table, they won't go in the street. The reason why you go in the street is because you want for job, we have to call you to the table so you can talk. The men say come to the table, that's why they said no, they won't go to the street. They went to the street June 7th. They gave a petition, the men take it and put it under the rock, put it under the rock. Now they're coming by again, they say, so they won't protest again. And they stuck around, they can't, you see how the people confusion in they can't, they say they want the men to step down. They say they want the men to step down. The international community said no. You're trying to bring confusion and stuff like that. So the things from step down, they say they're having parties. Oh, it's a peaceful gathering. They will drink, they will buy liquor, and they will have good time. It will be a festival. They will have parties. So the international government say, okay, send a party. We'll put you in the stadium. You're there. You're party. They said no. They won't party. What other people can party? And on Saturday, people can party. They say y'all go party on Saturday. They put you in the stadium so y'all can party. Y'all play the music. You're there. They said no, they don't want to do it. The people confused. They say they want protest on Friday. The Muslim people said no, like the time they can pray. So nobody might not protest on Friday because at the time they can pray. They take it from there. They say they will put it on Friday. The Costa said no because the country, like Christian country, like the time the Christian can go to church, so they don't want to do it. The national people say, okay, you do on Saturday. The Jehovah Witness and the 7-day Adventist people, and they said no. They can try one more day. We're supposed to go to church too. So they take it now. They want to bring it on Monday. The Chinese people, then the Buddhist people, they were in like we're making market. If it happens, so that they won't protest. Nothing will happen. No protest.
Thank you.
They will go and protest.
Thank you, D.
Yeah, they will go and protest, and nothing will happen.
Thank you. You finished speaking, right?
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm
all right.
finished speaking. Yeah, just watch. If the people protest, nothing will happen to us. We are not spoken. We'll come back to the same thing. They will start another protest again. This is the Organization Council of Protest. We just continue to protest.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Let me go to Dr. Kula on the solutions as we conclude.
Solutions. I want to look at solutions from the COP aspect, the government, and just as a nation of people. I think what Eastman said is true. We need to work on our legislative branch. They're rubber stamp. All of them are in cahoots with the president. So we need to find a way that we can put competent people who will be really our elders, will really keep the president in check and keep the nation in check, where the people bring their grievances to them and they channel those grievances through policy, through legislation, through laws. You know, just as simple as even the whole nomination process. I mean, these guys have let people through that shouldn't be through, you know. So we need competent people. That's one. The next thing is COP. COP needs to work on itself. And I would suggest to Alex that all the suggestion that Alex has about, you know, their petitions and how they should structure themselves and the organization and all of that, I would suggest that Alex either talk to one of those guys that are members and submit some sort of document, or just have a conversation with them and give his opinion or something. But what I would suggest to COP, if they're listening, is that you need to make the organization more of a grassroots organization. You guys can stay in the background, do the real organizing, and, you know, of course, I'll probably do the talking and promotion and all of that and getting the word out. But let the average market woman, Yana boy, be the face of the organization so that indeed it speaks to their needs. Now, whether y'all want to accept this or not, the COP has accomplished something major by putting the plight of Liberians in the international media. It's out there. It's all over the place. So they've done that. Now, the government looks more reactive, so I would suggest that the government listens to Mr. Coney and allow the people to protest. Give them 1 week. Let them go and assemble right there where they assembled the last time when they had the June 7th protest, which is at the legislative branch, which is their lawmakers, their representatives. Let them assemble there and protest for as long as they want. And let's see what this thing comes to. But the problem I see with the president, his group, is they got a lot of people around him with this group think. All of them think the same way. You know, they're giving him doom and gloom scenarios and conspiracy theories and all of that. Instead of saying, you know, let's allow the people to protest. Let's give free assembly, association, and speech and all of that. They're telling them, clap down. You got to show that you're strong. I don't agree with that. And lastly, I agree with Alex. I think he said EULA should come forth and have some sort of national conference. Since the president won't do it, he's not acting like a leader. He doesn't want to bring some sort of reconciliation conference. Instead, he's quick to reconcile his party, and he's looking at everything from a party perspective. Somebody has to be the big person in the room and say, look, let's have a national reconciliation where we can talk about all these issues and chart a new path for Liberia and make things better. Because, indeed, if you look at the COP petition, there are legitimate grievances in there. And I encourage you, Dennis, the next time to go over the petition in its entirety. It's in one of the articles that Front Page Africa wrote.
I did. That petition is too much. They were asking it should have been cut down to like 3 or 2 points. But anyway, there's another. I want to read this comment before I ask you, Mr. Coney, because it's directed at me. Mr. Isaac said, Lakwa Zawlo said, Dennis, you ran the other color off because his point was not that of your forum. Though Mr. Curtis is saying the same thing, you allow it because it is done with some sense of humor. He said, well, the color before D. Curtis, we were giving everybody 1 minute, but how will you not allow D. Curtis more than 1 minute? Come on now, Isaac. Let me go to you, Mr. Cooney.
Dennis, I think throughout this night, it has been proven that The COP has really no mass-based credibility. I think the extension in the time of the protest has created the environment for the Liberian people to see that this is basically a hustle group. They're not in the interest of any masses. Your radio station closed by judicial action, you're making it a demand on behalf of the people to open your radio station. You're calling on presidents to address the nation. I mean, these are the kind of petty things that are hanging uncertainty on our nation. And these are the kind of core activities that I'm talking about. But in terms of solution, this is where we come in. Again, like the caller before D. Curtis, our democracy is functioning. Our democracy is functioning. We have a vibrant democracy. We have a young democracy. Despite our age, the democracy in Liberia is very young. It is just 2005 where Liberia, for the first time, they had the opportunity to freely elect their own leaders. And we have a responsibility to be patient to improve on this system. These core activities by other people to disrupt this process is not a long-term solution. And this is where we come in with civic education. This is where we come in with awareness building. This is where we come in with all kinds of activities that will make our people aware, for them to even know the relationship between their vote, their representatives, and other issues. And somebody is coming up to organize a biannual protest every year in demand of personal things. It is only when we have a functioning legislature, a functioning judiciary, that these things that we're talking about, most of them will happen. I see all of it in the president. How we cry on an imperial president, but everybody here look up to the president to be the solution to our issue. How? What? I mean, see that kind of contradiction. We believe that we have to empower ourselves. The people will have to understand their own situations and take decisions constitutionally to affect the kind of change we want. That's the long-term change we have. It's not a talk show host change that is based on personal interest, that is based on all these negotiations. So this is where we come in. We have to educate our people. We have to conscientize our people. We have to make our democracy better. We have to take it from the current quantitative form to a qualitative level, where people are elected based on character, based on integrity. That is the only way we have, the system functioning. And that is the point we're making. This whole thing every day crying about president, we have to get out of the shadow of the president and be what the Liberian people want us to be. And that's the point I'm making.